Morning, morning. How we doing today? I hope everyone's having a good day, and I hope we are all ready to check out some Edge of Eternities. Give me 1 second. So these streams are a little bit different from my usual streams, where I sit and just play video games for like 4 hours. These usually take a little bit longer, and it's usually just me sitting and talking. So I will apologize for that in advance. But I always like to go through the newest set. Mostly just so I can, check out the cards before I go to usually the pre-release. Although I'm not sure I'm going to the pre-release this set. Sadly, it was it rushed up on us a bit fast. We weren't exactly ready for it. Or if I do any drafts of any kind, sometimes it's good to get a view of what's coming out beforehand so you know what to be looking for. Plus, you can sort of see how much removal there is in a set and what sort of bombs there are, and you can sort of get a good feel for how the set's going to be. Although, the last, 4 or 5 sets have all slapped in draft. Wizards have really been pumping out some good draft sets for a while. So, it's not... I'm not that worried about how the draft set's going to be, because draft sets have been pretty good for a while. They obviously don't really pay that much attention to how it affects standard, because some sets are completely game changing and some sets literally like 2 cards get used in standard, and it's completely stupid. But it's kind of whatever. That's kind of how these sort of card games are sometimes, I guess. Anyway, so let's get started. Let's see what we're looking at. Starting with the Anti-Causal Vestige. Is that how you say that name? Jesus. Also, I guess this is number 1 of the set. They have an Eldrazi. Interesting. I wonder if there's going to be any more Eldrazi. But yeah, so starting with that. Anti-Causal Vestige. A 6-mana 7/5. When this creature leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Warp 4. What is... I haven't seen Warp yet. I have looked at the some of the commander decks. Or both of the commander decks. So I have seen some of the mechanics. Mainly the station one. The spaceship station, whatever that one is. So I have seen a little bit of that. But I haven't seen Warp. You may cast this card from your hand for its Warp cost. Exile this creature at the beginning of the next end step. Then you may cast it from exile on a later turn. Wait. So how does Warp work? Am I going to have to look this one up? So does it... So you cast it for its Warp cost, which is 4... And does it come into play? I guess it comes into play for a turn. My reading of this is it comes into play, and then at the beginning of the next end step, it goes away again, and then you can play it for its full price on a later turn. Is that how this works? I'm gonna have to look this up on my phone. Warp MTG. I've seen Spacecraft and Station. I haven't seen Planet. So how does Warp work? You may choose to pay its Warp cost rather than its mana cost. If you do, you'll exile the permanent. You exile the permanent. It becomes at the beginning of the next end step. It then becomes a warped card. You can cast it from exile on a later turn. Because warp is only usable from your hand, you won't be able to warp cost it again once it's from exile. Right. So yeah. So you pay the warp cost, it comes in, goes away again at the beginning of the next end step, so you can't use it as a blocker or anything, but then you can pay the full price for it later. So this is nuts, right? Because the warp triggers the leaves the battlefield effect, because exiling it is it leaving the battlefield. So you pay 4 for this, and then it immediately leaves. So it's 4 mana, draw a card, put something that costs 4 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. And then you can do it again at 6, and it stays as a 7/5. And this has got to be good, right? Like, if you're playing it for its warp cost, it's probably because you have something in hand you want to do this with. And even if your opponent, like, tries to remove this card, when you play it for its warp cost during the phases it's around, you still get the effect, because it's when it leaves the battlefield. Like, this has got to be good, right? Warp also seems cracked if everything has enter the battlefield or leave the battlefield effects on warp, right? Because it's just a free trigger or a cheap trigger, and a lot of the cards that have enter the battlefield effects or leave the battlefield effects, you are paying the price mostly for the effect. Like, this is a 6 mana 7/5 as well, so it's kind of a beta, but I don't think you care about that, right? Because you play this for its warp cost, you get something decent out of your, you know, hand, and you get to draw a card. And then later you can always play this as a 6 mana 7/5 that still has the effect. This has got to be good. Warp also, like I said, seems kind of cracked, but we'll have to see what warp comes attached on. But that seems kind of cracked, right? Okay, warp. Interesting. I mean, the problem is anything that allows you to play cards for cheaper is generally good, even if it has a downside, because a lot of there are going to be ways to fiddle with the downside, right? Like sack outlets, if you need stuff to sacrifice for decent effects, you can just warp this in, sacrifice it, you get the whole effect, and then you probably have graveyard recursion anyway. Like, yeah, warp, it seems really powerful. I don't know if this one is specifically a really powerful warp card, but warp seems very powerful. Right. Hey, Tezzeret's back. Tezzeret, Cruel Captain. Okay. He's a 3 mana Planeswalker, which is always a dangerous amount of mana to have a Planeswalker at. I'm looking at you, Teferi. So 3 mana, 4 loyalty. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a loyalty counter on him. Right. You can, for 0, untap target artifact or creature. If it's an artifact creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay. For -3, search your library for an artifact card with mana value 1 or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Although Soul Ring lovers are going to have another way to get Soul Ring out. Cool. And his -7 is you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target artifact you control. If it's not a creature, it becomes a creature. Right. I mean, he's very artifact focused. So, depending on how artifact focused the set is, I don't hate it. I usually prefer when they make Planeswalkers very type specific rather than just broadly good. Because broadly good 3 mana Planeswalkers just get played in fucking everything. Or just completely... Again, Teferi, I'm looking at you. What was the other one? The guy that made Elks. Whatever that guy was in the first adventure set. God, my brain is just dead at the moment. We started a little bit earlier today, so my brain is kind of like collapsing in on itself. I can't remember his name, but the guy who makes Elks, that was a 3 mana Planeswalker that was just generally good. The blue-green guy. Like, when they're just 3 mana, generally good Planeswalkers, they're just good in everything. But Tezzeret is specifically artifacts. So if you've got him in any other deck, right? Like he's a 3-mana planeswalker with a 0 untap a creature because you're not going to have artifacts. And it's going to be -3 search your deck for an artifact you probably don't have, and then -7 turn artifacts that you don't have into creatures. Like you can't just put this in a deck and it'll just be good. You have to actually build a deck around it. Now, how good is an artifact deck built around Tezzeret? Maybe that's something to try. Maybe I'll do a try building an artifact deck. I don't really usually play artifacts because I don't find them too interesting, but maybe I'll try building a Tezzeret deck or something after the set comes out. We shall see. But I think he's probably good in Commander, I imagine. He's a colorless planeswalker, so he probably sees play. And in Commander, there's a bunch of cheap artifacts you're going to want to farm out, right? Like Soul Ring obviously springs to mind, but I'm sure there's plenty of others that this guy just fetching is really nice. So yeah, this is probably really good in Commander and other things, but I think in specifically a draft format, depending on how many artifacts there are in the set, this doesn't scare me too much. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Hey, we're on to the white cards. So the first two are colorless things. I don't know why these don't go down with the artifact. I suppose because they're not actually artifacts, they don't go down in the artifact section. But it's like Ugin in the previous set, or Tarkir Dragonstorm set at least, where they just, you know, they have one singular mythic or rare bomb that they had summon Bahamut in the Final Fantasy set as well. They've just got like one colorless card at the start of or they're supposed two this time at the start of their their set. It's just they're like, hey, look, this thing's nuts. But yeah, moving on to the W in Wooburg, white. We're starting with All Fates Stalker. It's a 4-mana 2/3. When it enters, exile up to one target non-assassin creature until this creature leaves the battlefield. With Warp for 2. This isn't particularly interesting, right? Like, so generally white pays 3 mana for this effect, not 4. And the warp effect means this creature leaves, which means it doesn't have flash, so you can't do it on their turn. So what, on your turn you play this for 2, exile a creature so that you can attack, and then it leaves again, and then their creature just comes straight back? I mean, this is only good on the attack, right? Like, you can't really use this defensively unless you pay it for the full price. Which, again, white pays 3 mana for this effect, not 4. So, not great. Asteli Reclaimer, okay? A 5 mana 5/4 with flying. When it enters, return target non-creature, non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this creature. Okay. So this is 3 mana warp, reanimate a 3 mana card, or pay full price 5 mana for a good body that reanimates a 5 mana card. Okay, this is good. This is a good card, right? I haven't seen what white's doing, so I don't know if it's specifically weenies. But, I mean, this is a 5 mana 5/4 flyer. Already that's great. And it reanimates something. And you can warp it for cheap to reanimate something cheap. So this has to be good. This is a good draft card. It just is. Probably like up on the tier list of white bombs. Like pretty high on the tier list of white bombs. The only issue is it's non-creature, non-land. So, like, what are you reanimating with this? Enchantments and artifacts? Depends how many you've got, but maybe that's good. I don't know. We'd have to see. I know the stations don't count as creatures until they get enough counters on them. So you can reanimate space stations with this, right? So maybe there's some cheap white space station. You can just be like, thank you. And just keep bringing it back. Auxiliary boosters. It's a 5 mana. When it enters, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token and attach this equipment to it. Okay, so sort of for Moradin, whatever for whatever Moradin, is it? Whatever the one that's equipped stuff to it. So one of those effects. So essentially, this is 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer. It's not great. I mean, it's got flying. This is probably usable, right, in draft specifically. Because you could just, like, hey, look, here's my 5 mana 3/4 flyer. It's a flyer. That's all we really care about. It has the keyword flying and that's it. And then you can just turn all of your creatures into flyers so you can always get that little bit more chip damage through. Assuming your opponent doesn't have a big fat flyer that can block. So, yeah, this is probably good. Banishing Light. Hey, it's a reprint. We've seen this. When it enters, get rid of it. I told you, white pays 3 for this. I mean, even on creatures, white usually pays 3 for this. But this is the enchantment where, yeah, Banishing Light. It's a reprint. We've seen this before. Beyond the Quiet. 5 mana, exile all creatures and spacecraft. Oh. God's sake. What is with this, right? Like, white has one set where they have a shit sweeper, so they need an absolute cracked out sweeper. God damn it. This is Sunfall. But you don't get the extra guy, but, like, if that's the reason you're playing Sunfall, your deck is weird. Right? Like, you're not playing Sunfall because you get a good dude at the end of it. You're playing Sunfall because it says exile all creatures, right? So Indestructible doesn't do anything. And this is just Sunfall Part 2. We now hit some artifacts. Congratulations. This is... We're aiming for 5 mana Farewell. give it 5 sets. We're gonna have 5 mana Farewell. God fucking damn it. Well, every time you see white as a color in a deck from now on, you have to just not play cards into it. Just one creature at a time. I will slowly kill you, I promise. Rather than ever committing to the board, because this fucking exists. And I'm gonna run into this in a draft. It's gonna piss me off then as well. God damn it. We don't need Sunfall Part 2, please. Bright Spear Zealot is a 3 mana, 2/4 with Vigilance. This creature has +2/+0 as long as you've cast 2 or more spells this turn. I don't know how easy this is going to be to get off. But I mean, it's a 3 mana, 2/4 with Vigilance. It's not terrible. It's good if you can cast the 2 spells, because then it's a 3 mana, 4/4 with Vigilance. The question is, how often can you do that? And in draft, probably not that regularly. So, Cosmogrand Zenith. Okay, it's another 3 mana, 2/4. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, choose 1. Create 2 1/1s, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Okay. Again, I don't know how much you're going to be able to play 2 spells, but I mean, compared to this card, I mean, it is a mythic rare versus a common. This is a bomb, right? This is an absolute bomb. It just kind of depends how much you can play 2 spells a turn. Like, in standard, this is probably really good, but in limited, can you craft yourself a deck where you're planning on playing 2 spells every turn? Possibly, but you have to really, like, commit to it. This has to be, like, your first pick, and then you have to, like, full commit to cheap stuff. But, I mean, it's still a great card. Dawn Strike Vanguard. 6 mana, 4/5 with lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control other than this creature. This is good as well. Especially because there's so the station mechanic, the spaceship mechanic, whatever. I mean, there's going to be probably vehicles in this set, or they're all going to be space stations, which is a very similar mechanic where you tap creatures to put counters on it and turn it into a thing, right? Eventually. So if you have ways to have 2 tapped creatures that without attacking and getting them killed, this is crazy because it just grows everything. If you're winning the board state and you can attack with 2 creatures, this is crazy because you're just winning even harder. The only time this is bad is if it's like you can't attack with 2 creatures, which will happen. But I mean, this is still a 4/5 lifelinker, so it's still going to help stabilize. I think this is just a really nice little limited card. I think this is a really nice little limited card. I would pick up at least one of these in my deck if I saw it, 100%. Dock Drone Worker is a 2 mana 1/1, 2 mana 2/2. Because it enters with a +1/+1 counter, and when it dies, put its counter on target creature you control. We've seen stuff like this before. This can be good. It looks, because this is putting +1/+1 counters on things. This is putting +1/+1 counters on things. Nothing else is doing +1/+1 counter stuff. But if there's a way to like do a bunch of +1/+1 counter synergy, this card only gets better. And I mean, it's a turn 2/2 at least. So don't hate it. Think it's good in limited. Dual Sun Adepts is a 3 mana 2/2 with double strike that gives creatures you control +1/+1 for 5 mana. Double strike is a crazy ass keyword. So this is probably good. Any buffs, this thing just fights like a monster. Even if you play this in the later game, like even if you've got 7 mana, you play, or 8 mana, you play this, and your opponent has to be scared because next turn it's going to be coming in for like 6 damage if they don't block it. And it can, block a decent-sized creature up to a 6/6 because you can tap 5, give this +1/+1, and then it hits for 6. This is anything with double strike is always going to be a good fighter. Dual Sun Technique. So 2 mana instant, target creature you control gains double strike. If it has a +1/+1 counter on it, draw a card. Okay, so white's doing +1/+1 counter synergy, or at least one of the white color combos is. Again, double strike is crazy. The only problem with this card is it doesn't give protection of any kind. So this is a really good combat trick if you know that your opponent doesn't have a trick of their own. The issue is if you use this and your opponent just like blows up your creature in response to you targeting, you're going to feel really bad. I suppose, to be fair, that can happen anyway, even with the defensive spells. Yeah, this is really good in combat, not good for anything else, realistically. I mean, it does draw a card, maybe. I don't know. I'm always kind of iffy about these sort of things, like the combat tricks, because I feel like whenever I cast them, my opponent has removal, so they just kill my creature. It doesn't do anything. And whenever I play up against someone, they just vomit 6 of these cards onto a single creature the one turn I don't have removal and completely annihilate me. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. But this draws a card, so it's probably good. At least if you get it off on a creature with a +1/+1 counter, it draws a card, which is probably good because it replaces itself. So we'll just have to see. Emergency Eject. 3 mana, destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a lander token. That. It's an artifact with 2 mana, tap, sacrifice it. So very much like a clue. Search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Oh, that's cool. I mean, this is removal. This is a good card. Giving your opponent extra mana is not great, but this is removal, so it's probably fine in limited. Exalted Sunborn, another angel. It's a 5 mana 4/5 flying lifelink. If one or more tokens would be created. Oh, so it's doubling, not doubling season. There's a white one that does it as well. Fuck, my brain is completely died. I cannot remember any of the magic cards. But yeah, it's a token doubler. The white and green both have plenty of this effect, but it's another one. If one or more tokens will be created under your control, create twice, and this has warp. Warp for 2. I mean, if you're doing something that's making, like, is this cast? Cast your second spell. So if you warp this guy for 2, and then play another card, you could make 4 tokens off the Cosmograph Zenith. So yeah, I mean, this is good. This is going to be a good card. First of all, it's a 5 mana 4/5 flying lifelinker. That's just so much good stuff on a card. And if you get any value out of the token doubler, your opponent's probably just losing, right? Like, if you have any way to make the token doubler good, your opponent's just losing. So, this card has got to be good in limited, 100%. And the fact that you can play it for cheaper with the warp cost probably just makes it even better. Exosuit Savior. 3 mana 2/2 flyer. When it enters, return up to 1 target permanent you control to its owner's hand. Doesn't have flash, though. I mean, it's a way to re-trigger enter the battlefield effects. I mean, technically, so you can use this on cards that you've warped in, right? So if you have a warp card that has an enter the battlefield effect, and the only one we've seen though has been this one, which has been bad. Oh no, you could do it on the Astelli Reclaimer. So you like warp this into 3, reanimate something, and then play this for 3 afterwards and bounce it back to your hand, and then you have the warp cost again because it's not going to get exiled at the end of turn. I think this is a bit pricey, right? I mean, maybe not. It's a flying 3 mana 2/2, but it doesn't have flash, so you're probably not saving anything that really needs it. You're just going to be bouncing something for additional value, which could be fine. I don't know how much you're going to care about it. I mean, maybe this is okay. It's just not really striking me as incredible. Flight Deck Coordinator is a 3 mana 3/3. At the beginning of your end step, you control 2 or more tapped creatures, gain 2 life. Sure, this is fine. Again, especially if you have ways to tap creatures by, like, crewing vehicles or spaceships or whatever you have to do for the stations or whatever. But we haven't seen any of those yet, so I don't know. Or if you're just doing a weenie thing and you have just a bunch of creatures that you just turn sideways that you don't give a shit about, this is still good. 2 life is not as good as whatever the last one was, the lifelinker that gives +1/+1 to everything, +1/+1 counters to everything. But, you know, it's still a 3 mana 3/3, so not terrible. Like, you're fine with that. Focus Fire, 1 mana instant, deals X damage to target attacking or blocking creature, where X is 2 plus the number of creatures and spacecraft you control. Situational removal. It's still 1 mana for 2 damage, which is fine, but it's only attacking or blocking creatures. But this is still probably pretty good. Like, if you're taking this, you either have a lot of creatures or spacecraft, or you just want a way to stop attacking creatures early. And this can do all of those things, so I think it's fine. Halia Guided by Light is a 3 mana 3/3. Whenever Halia or another creature or artifact you control enters, gain 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you've gained 3 or more life this turn, and you can warp her for 1. So this and this and any 2 creatures and or artifacts triggers itself with the warp effect, right? So you like warp her in for 1, she triggers herself, you gain a life. All you need is another 2 creatures to enter or artifacts. So you either need something that summons a token or like 2 cheap guys, anything like that. And then you will gain the 3 life, so then you can draw a card out of her before she gets exiled with the end of turn warp. I think this is pretty good. If you're doing like a weenie strategy or tokens or something like that, this is just good. It's going to heal you a little bit. It's going to draw you some cards a little bit. Probably you get both effects. Well, you definitely get the healing of herself off when you first play her with warp. And you probably get a draw card. You probably get to draw a card out of her with the turn you warp her. And then after that, when you play her for 3, your opponent might think about blowing her up. But I mean, this is probably like gain 3 life, draw a card, and on a later turn make a 3/3 that your opponent has to deal with, which is pretty good. I'd say this is a pretty decent. I don't know if I'd call this a bomb, because I don't think it's going to win the game by itself, but it might just give you enough value in limited that you just win. So maybe. Hard Light Containment. A 1 mana enchantment aura, enchant artifact you control. When this aura enters, exile target creature and opponent controls until it leaves down to permanent. This is just better ossification. Why? I mean, I suppose this doesn't go on lands. You have to put this on an artifact, so it's not better ossification. But it is. Like, if you're playing an artifact deck, or you have a lot of have we seen many artifacts? I suppose we haven't. We've seen 1. And it's a creature, which means... Oh, 2. Yeah, we've seen 2. So it's not like we're rolling in artifacts at the moment. But, I mean, this is... Yeah, this is ossification. Which is... Ossification is 2 mana, enchant a land you control, exile a creature. And is played still quite a lot, I think. Or at least I see it a decent number of times. In decks that run white in standard and that sort of stuff, just because it's like a cheap way to deal with something early on. I guess this requires you to have an artifact. Do they have artifact lands? Have they printed artifact lands in this set? As long as they haven't printed artifact lands, I think we're okay. But yeah, this is again, actually, maybe there's no way this is as good as ossification, actually, because ossification is target land, and you're always going to have lands on the field to ossify. But this, you might not always have an artifact, and there's easier ways to remove artifacts than there is lands. So, yeah, okay. This isn't as terrible as when I first read it. I just, a 1 mana exile something, I was like, why? What have you done, Wizards? But actually, because this has to enchant an artifact, there's no way you can, like, turn to this unless you have a 1 mana artifact. And this is probably good in, like, Commander, right? Like, because you're going to have a whole bunch of 1 mana, or you're going to have a bunch of cheap artifacts, and this is just, you know... Exile something your opponent controls, give one of your mana artifacts ward. Maybe it's crap though, because people do play artifact removal in to get rid of stuff like soul rings and things in Commander. I'm not sure. But I think in Limited this isn't as terrifying as it seems, because there aren't going to be enough artifacts to make this work, probably. You can't guarantee draw this and an artifact, so I don't know. Maybe it's good. But I get a feeling, because it's enchant an artifact you control, maybe it's not quite as scary as I thought. Honor. 1 mana sorcery per +1/+1 counter on target creature. Draw a card. Sure. I mean, this is sorcery speed, so it's not great. But it does replace itself because you get to draw a card. So it's not the worst thing in the world. There are ways to move counters around with that robot that just dies and moves the counter that we saw earlier. So I don't hate it. Honored Knight Captain is a 2 mana 1/1. When it enters, create a 1/1 white. Okay, so yeah. So with this lady, for 3 mana, if you warp her in first and then play an Honored Knight Captain, it instantly triggers her. Because this guy makes a token. So yeah, for 3 mana, you can get her full effect. I wasn't sure because we hadn't seen other 1 mana creatures apart from her realistically, so I wasn't sure if she'd actually get to trigger herself. But yeah, the Honored Knight Captain just triggers her. So it's a 1/1, makes a 1/1. You can sacrifice this original creature, search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. We haven't seen any scary equipments. So I don't know. And that's also 6 fucking mana. So, I suppose we have seen, no, we've seen the rocket boosters. They give something +1/+2 and flying, but paying 6 mana for that's just not worth it. If you're paying 6 mana for an equipment card, it better be fucking fat, right? Something that's absolutely worth 6 mana or costs even more. But I mean, this is just a 2 mana 2/2 spread across 2 body. Like, you're playing this because he's a token generator. You're not playing this for the sacrifice effect. So yeah, this is probably just fine. Night Luminary. He is a 4 mana 3/2. When he enters, create a 1/1, and you can warp him. So he also would trigger Hilea because he is 2 mana, make this guy, and an extra 1/1. This is decent. I think just because of the warp cost, I think he's overpriced for what he does normally. But the warp cost kind of makes it, right? Because this is, 2 mana, poop out of what he'll make 2 creatures in a turn. Even if one of them leaves, you still get to keep the pooped out 1/1. And then you can always play this guy again later. I think this is pretty good. Light Stall Inquisitor is a 1 mana 2/1 with Vigilance. When it enters, each opponent exiles a card from their hand and may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Each spell cast this way costs 1 more to cast. Each land played this way enters tapped. So this is like 1 mana slightly irritate people. I don't know how much this matters in draft. I mean, it's a 1 mana 2/1. It's not awful. You still probably take it. But yeah, this is just 1 mana be slightly annoying. Okay, cool. Like, I'd take this. Because it only hinders your opponents, not you, and you don't really care. And it's a turn 1 play where you just go 1 mana, play a 2/1 with Vigilance, and something unpleasant happens to you. But it's not like game breaking or anything. It's just going to be slightly annoying. Maybe this is like super because of in standard and in like command, or I guess high end commander, CEDH or whatever. People are playing by such thin margins to try and win so quickly. If you do this turn 1, you probably just fuck everybody up a little bit. But I think in limited, this loses a lot of its value. It's a 1 mana 2/1 with Vigilance that says, I don't really do anything. Sure. Our first spacecraft. Okay. So, spacecraft are similar to, vehicles, but you kind of like have to get them there, right? So yeah, this is 2 mana for an artifact that doesn't do anything. It just sits there. But you can tap another creature you control and put charge counters on this equal to its power. And at different stages of charge counters, things happen. So at +2 for this one, other creatures you control get +1/+1. So this is cracked. Because this is 2 mana and a guy to whatever. White has so many of these +1/+1 to all creature effects. Whatever one you're thinking of, that one. And then if you get it all the way to 12, it's a 3/5 flying lifelinker. But that's probably worse because then it's a creature and it can be targeted with removal. I think you probably just keep this thing as +1/+1 to all of your creatures unless you absolutely need it, right? But yeah, I think Station's a bit slow. Again, I don't know because I haven't played it yet. But it looks kind of slow, right? Like, for this creature, it comes down on turn 2. And unless you have exactly Lightstall Inquisitor, you don't do anything with it on turn... Because this is a turn 1 play that has 2 power. But we haven't seen another turn 1 creature that could do anything with this, right? Yeah, no. So this is the only turn 1 creature that can do it. So unless you go exactly Lightstall Inquisitor into Lumen class frigate and then tap the Lightstall Inquisitor instead of attacking with it. That's Vigilance, so you can attack and then tap it afterwards. So you attack, deal 2, then tap. This makes then from then on, this makes every creature you control +1/+1. That's probably like but then you need 2 rare cards to make that work in limited. That's just not going to happen realistically, right? You could pray for that to happen, but the chance of it happening is like fuck all. So like this guy doesn't. So generally, what's going to happen in limited is it's going to be turn 1, play a land, do nothing. Turn 2, if this is in your hand, you play this. Turn 3. You play a creature, because there's going to be a bunch of 2 or 3 mana creatures probably in your deck. Then you use that creature, because you can tap it immediately, to put charge counters onto this, which then makes all of your creatures +1/+1. So turn 4 is the first time you're going to be swinging with a creature that gets the effects of this having the +1/+1, right? Unless you get the absolute gravy train of Lightstall into Lumen, which is just very unlikely. So, yeah, I think it's a bit slow. I mean, it does feed into itself, right? Because all the creatures having +1/+1 means this gets to flying and lifelink much faster. But I think it's slow. I think just the station mechanic in general is a bit slow. Lux Knight Breacher is a 4-mana 2/2. When this enters with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature or artifact you control. Okay, so this is like your weenie payoff. Could get big. At 4 mana, you're going to need at least 2 creatures to make this feel like a half-decent thing. But we have seen some token generators and a token doubler, so you could make this pretty large. Pinnacle Star Cage. Okay. 3 mana artifact. When it enters, exile all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2. So it's temporary lockdown. This is the artifact version of temporary lockdown. And you can tap 6, put each card exiled with this artifact into its owner's graveyard, then create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each card put into a graveyard this way. Sacrifice this artifact. Tap 8, sorry. So, I mean, temporary lockdown is used in control decks already to stop aggro. So this is just another temporary lockdown, and you can use it to vomit out an army of dudes later. I mean, most of the time you're going to be hitting, or this is probably hitting tokens the majority of the time. Like, this is probably good. I'm one of those, like, sweepers are good if you're holding the sweeper because you get to choose. So, and this can be a very one-sided sweeper if your opponent is vomiting out a bunch of cheap guys and you just have, like, one expensive dude, and then just play this, gobble up all their cheap guys, and just have your one expensive dude left. So, this is probably pretty good. I don't know how often you're getting to the 8 mana vomit some dudes. I think generally it's just, 3 mana, clear off all the crappy little shit that's in the way or that's attacking you or whatever. But yeah, this is probably pretty good. Pulsar Squadron Ace. A 2 mana 1/2 with a lot of text. When this creature enters, look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal a spacecraft from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you didn't, this is a 2/3. Okay. Yeah, this is a nice little card to have, especially if you're playing spacecrafts and you want to find them. I don't know how many spacecrafts there are. We've only seen one. So, depending on how many spacecrafts there are, this is really good or kind of crappy. But, I mean, it's a 2 mana, 2/3 at worst, which is good. So... oh, sorry, chat. So yeah, this is probably just a good card. It's probably just you probably just want to run as many of these as possible if you're playing starships because they are at the very least 2/3s, and at best you get your good spacecraft card from the top 5. So yeah, I think it's a good card. Radiant Strike, 4 mana, destroy target artifact or tapped creature, gain 3 life. Okay. Instant speed, 4 mana. Maybe a little bit pricey. Usually you're paying like 2 to destroy a tapped creature and 1 to destroy an artifact, but then you're also paying 1 to gain 3 life. So this is kind of like fine. I mean, it's removal. It's probably better than you think in draft at least, but yeah, this is just kind of fine. Rayblade Trooper. A 3 mana 2/2. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever a non-token creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, make a guy and you can walk. Okay. Yeah, this is probably pretty good as well. This is 2 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on something and attack with it, and if it dies, you get a 1/1 out of it. And then this goes away, and then you probably replay this the turn after, put a +1/+1 counter on something else, and maybe turn that into a guy as well. Yeah, I think the white weenie strategy's got some bite to it, maybe. Again, the issue is there's the white 5 mana say fuck you to everybody. So, and that sun thing we just saw, the Pinnacle Starcade, would screw a white weenie player over completely. But hey, maybe if you're in white, nobody else at the table drafted it. Reroute Systems. 1 mana. Choose 1. Target artifact creature gains indestructible or deals 2 damage to target tapped creature. Yeah, this is actually pretty good. It's either a piece of removal or a combat trick that allows your creature to survive. Or just protection. It's either protection or removal, which is generally just good. It is only for a single guy, but sure. Yeah, this is good. Rescue Skiff. Okay, so it's a 6 mana space station. When it enters, return target creature or enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, that's why it costs 6. Yeah. And then you can station it, and if you get it to 10, it's a 5/6 flyer. I mean, this is probably just it's so you usually pay 5 mana for reanimation. So this is slightly more expensive reanimation. But yeah, I mean, it is reanimation. Also, can't you... oh no, I suppose this does cost 6, right? So you can't do anything crazy with it. I was going to say, can't you reanimate this from your graveyard with a cheap artifact reanimation spell and then use this specifically to reanimate something like Omnipotence? But I guess currently the white-blue deck that does that just reanimates Omnipotence at turn 4 anyway. So I don't think you really care. But yeah, this is probably pretty good just because it's reanimation, right? You just reanimate something. I haven't seen any graveyard hate. So this probably is just a 6 mana, return a creature, and then later on it's a big flyer if you get it there. This is probably pretty good. Scout for Survivors. A 3-mana sorcery. Return up to 3 target creature cards with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. Okay, so this is like 3 1/1s or a... So this is like 3 1-mana creatures, a 2-mana and a 1-mana or 1 3-mana creature, and they get +1/+1 counters. This very much depends on what you've got in your deck for limited. But it can be good. Cheap reanimation like this can definitely be good. But again, it very much depends what's in your graveyard for this. Like if you have the cheap weenie stuff to make this work, it's great. If you don't, and then, or if you, even if you do, if they're not in the graveyard, like, Seam Rip. 1-mana enchantment. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. I mean, this is fine, I guess. Again, this is similar to ossification, because generally ossification you play on turn 2 to gobble up whatever they had, whatever your opponent has played on turn 1 or turn 2, and this still does that. So in a limited format, is your opponent playing something on turn 1 or turn 2? Possibly. If not, this card is kind of useless, usually. But I'd probably still pick it, just because it's better to have it and not use it than to need it and not have it, right? One of those. I don't know. This is either the best piece of removal I've ever seen or completely useless. Like, there's no in between, and it entirely depends on what your opponent is playing. So yeah, that's kind of it's a bit awkward. I'm not really sure where to break this one. What is this? The Cerema. The Cerema, maybe, is a 3-mana legendary spacecraft. When the Cerema enters, search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle. Sure. And if you get this to a +7, it's a 5/5 flyer with other tapped legendary creatures you control have indestructible. How many other legendary things have we seen so far in white? I know we've seen this lady. That's 1. Was there anything else legendary? No. Okay. So in mono white, you're not going to be playing mono white, but we've only seen white so far, so I can't judge anything else. So in mono white, this is go fetch that one lady. Reveal her, put her into your hand, and then shuffle if you have her in your limited deck. And then you can make her indestructible whenever she attacks. She doesn't have vigilance, right? No. Yeah. Sure. I'm probably... There's probably a card that makes this really good. But I don't know. Again, I think the station mechanic is a tad slow. I think getting this to +7 takes you to at least turn 4 or 5. I mean, a 5/5 flyer is still really good on turn 5, right? 4 or 5. But I feel like it just... I don't know. I don't know how good... It's almost impossible for me to evaluate how fast or slow the station mechanic is until I actually play with it. Because, like, it feels like tapping, especially in a limited format, tapping down your own 3-power, 4-power creature 2 turns in a row to get this online is probably not worth it. But maybe it is. Maybe the format is really fucking slow and you're not going to be getting attacked at all, so you don't need to hold up blockers. Maybe mono white is the fastest color. So maybe you can do this and still be on the board ahead of other colors. I don't know. But it just seems slow. Squire's Lightblade is a 1-mana flash equipment. When it enters, attach it to target creature. That creature gains first strike. Okay, and it says it's Coral Blade. White Coral Blade. Sure, this is a fine trick because it sticks around and you can give the +1/+0 to stuff. Starfield Shepherd is a 5-mana 3/2 flyer with, when it enters, search your library for a plains or a creature card with mana value 1 or less, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. I don't hate this actually because you can warp it for the plains to make sure you have a good, like, curve. And then when you actually play it for 5 mana, you can go get a creature. But it is a creature with mana value 1 or less. I don't know how many. We've only seen one of those in the entire of white. So, we'd have to review that later, and I'm not going to come back and review some uncommon angel after I've looked through every other color. But this is probably pretty good. Starfighter Pilot is a 2-mana 2/2. Whenever it becomes tapped, Veil 1. Sure, there's always something like this. This is just fine. It's a good 2-mana card to have, so you probably have one of them in your deck, probably. Starport Security is a 1-mana 1/1, 4-mana. Tap another target creature. This ability costs 2 less to activate if you control a creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. Very expensive, even if you have the +1/+1 counter on something, because usually white has like 1 mana tap down something. So, but it is a 1-mana 1/1, and it gives you a body to start putting counters on and things like that. So, I don't hate it. This is probably fine. You can probably pick up 1 or 2 of these in your deck. Why not? Sunstar Chaplain. 2-mana 3/2. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And you can tap 2, remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control, tap target artifact or creature. I mean, this is, you just want this for the +1/+1 counters, right? To grow stuff. But you're like, you play, even if you play a turn 1 card, you play this on turn 2, it doesn't trigger because you can't have more than 2 creatures tapped. You can't have 2 creatures tapped, you can only have 1, because even if you played a creature turn 1, this doesn't have haste, so it can't tap, and doesn't have a way to tap itself for 0 mana. So nothing happens, so it can only trigger on turn 3, and only if you can attack with this, and they both survive. I mean, in limited, that might just, again, I haven't had a look through the creatures. I have no idea how fast the format's going to be. Maybe white is the fastest thing. Maybe the other colors aren't playing anything before turn 3. So maybe you get this off as long as you go first. But maybe you don't. I'd still say this is probably a really good card, because even if you play this later, as long as you have some like tokens or weenie creatures or stuff you just don't give a shit about, you can just swing with them. Hopefully 2 survive, and you get to put +1/+1 counters on card creatures you actually care about. But we'll have to see. Sunstar Expansionist is a 2-mana 2/3. When it enters, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a lander token. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, it becomes a 3/3 until end of turn. Because you're probably not doing multiple landfall triggers in a single turn. Yeah, this is fine. I like the create a lander token just to smooth out your mana curve and also thin your deck a little bit, especially in limited, because it means you have higher chance of drawing useful cards. So I think I like this guy. It's a 2-mana 2/3 as well. Yeah, I think this guy's good. I think I'd run like 2 of these guys, maybe more. Yeah, I like this. This is a good card. Sunstar Lightsmith is a 4-mana 3/3. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and draw a card. Again, as long as you're playing 2 spells a turn, this is good. The question is, how regularly can you play 2 spells a turn? Because this is not coming down until turn 4. Turn 5, if you want to automatically trigger it, but then you need a 1-mana spell to cast afterwards. So... I mean, this is probably good. I might try running like one of these if I was playing like an aggro-y thing and I'm planning on playing playing 2 spells a lot. It's hard to know. Maybe blue-white wants to do the 2 spell thing, so maybe when we get to blue we'll see a lot more of 2 spell things. And it'll start making sense. But yeah, I'm very meh on this. Wedge Light Rammer, okay, is a 4-mana. It creates a 2/2. So for 4 mana, you get this and a 2/2, which you probably use to crew this immediately. And if you can make it to 9, it's a 3/4 flying first striker. Again, it seems very slow. This one does come with a creature, which is nice, but it's a 4-mana 2/2. Like, this just seems kind of slow, the station mechanic, but maybe I'm wrong. Plus, it'll be nice that I'm assuming every color has spacecrafts, so every color will have flyers of some kind, even if you have to, like, stack them up to get there. So, yeah, I don't hate this. It's just, it's going to be slow. Your opponent's going to see this coming for, like, 2-3 turns before you actually turn this into a vehicle, right? Realistically. So, Weft Blade Enhancer, okay, is a 6-mana 3/4. When this creature enters, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each of up to 2 creatures. Okay, so it's 4 +1/+1 counters. Oh no, put a +1/+1, not 2. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 creatures. So it's 2 +1/+1 counters. But you can warp it, so you warp it, put 2 +1/+1 counters on something. So for 3, it's 3 mana, put 2 +1/+1 counters onto 2 separate creatures, and then this can come in later and do it again. I don't hate this. I feel like warp cards are probably just going to get played because they generally have pretty okay effects. Yeah, I don't hate this card. It's not blowing me away, don't get me wrong. It's just kind of meh, but sure. Zealous Display. 3 mana creatures you control get play. Yeah, okay. Sure. This is your overrun kind of white effect. They always get one of these, and you maybe run one. If you're playing White Weenie, you play like one of these. Alright, so we're on to blue. What did I think of white? So I like the +1/+1 mechanic. +1/+1 counters mechanic. I always like that kind of stuff. It is also very cool that they're putting it onto robots. Again, spacecraft, I don't know if station and spacecraft and all this is too slow. And white did also get its just pick of removal. Again, I think the card that really upsets me is fucking Beyond the Quiet. Can we not give white 5 mana, remove everything, put your middle finger up at your opponent and say you don't want to play anymore? Can we stop doing that, please? Like, I have to admit, I'm a bit biased. I usually like playing creature-based strategies because I want to punch people in the face with creatures. But does white always need the best board sweepers permanently? Like, because Sunfall is about to rotate, right? I think Sunfall rotates this year, right? It rotates with the March of the Machine stuff, which I think is this year. So they just printed better Sunfall. Which is just like, okay, sure. What? White cannot have cannot not have the best, like, it has to have the best AoE removal just permanently. It's just required. And it's just like, bro, come on. But sure. I suppose at least it's not instant speed. But they've got to stop giving white these fucking exile board clears. Because they have Farewell. And like, Farewell is so good, but you don't run it because it costs 1 more than Sunfall. And so, like, maybe people were going to have to wait until 6 mana to start completely sweeping everything you play out of existence. But no, they just printed another 5 mana sweeper that hits the new mechanic in the set as well. Like, they didn't just reprint Sunfall and go, yeah, well, here's your board sweeper for creatures because white needs it. They went, here's your board sweeper for creatures. Oh, and because we've included new mechanic, you get to hit that as well. Like, bro, come on. The Wizards have got to stop doing this. They've got to stop just giving white fucking sweeper of the sweeper of legend, because it's just going to see play, right? 5 mana, exile every creature and any stations that might be causing you issues. Almost definitely going to see play. Ugh. Whatever. I'm going to stop being annoyed. We're going to move on to blue.